us, then we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gon' be alright. What up, you guys? Boy Chrome back in another video. Back in another review. I did say in my first review coming back that I was going to be doing some retro reviews. We're here with my first retro review of maybe one of the most interesting albums of 2015 when this album actually came out. This is To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar, in my honest opinion, is one of the best of his generation. His generation would be people like Cole, Tyler, Travis, a very woke rapper. He is an excellent storyteller. This album, when this album first came out, I was very harsh on it. I gave it a 6 out of 10, which I think at the time was a very misleading score. Back then I wasn't really heavily analyzing music as much as I do now, and I feel like now I've been putting off re-listening to this album for a very long time, and I'm glad that I finally came back and re-listened to this album for this review. Also, the next album that I'm going to be doing a retro review for is the Carter 4. One of the best Carters, I think, out of all 5 of them. But let's get into this review. Let's get into this album. Now, this album, Kendrick Lamar goes headfirst into a lot of hard-hitting topics. God, religion, sexuality. He talks about Uncle Sam. He talks about how it's very hard to maintain a lifestyle that is the lifestyle that he was stepping into at the time. He was talking about how you can get anything in the world. It's just about keeping it. And he was talking about how America just wants black people to spend as much money as possible, have an ability to say F my haters, but then a year later or a couple months down the line, you can no longer afford shit, you're broke. This song starts off with maybe one of the best intros I've heard in a long time out of anybody. It is the Wesley Snipes theory that talks about how, if you know Wesley Snipes, he started out as one of the richest black played actors of all time, and now he barely has any money left to his name and became bankrupt. And this is what this album, it introduces you to this whole idea and this overall theory, and then follows right afterwards with a track called Not Free or For Free. And he goes further and deeper into the whole idea that the world just wants to swallow us up whole and spits us back out flat on our asses. Halfway into this album, he starts talking about God with the track You, which a lot of people would not, first of all, when you first hear the track, is associated with God, but it's definitely it's talking about God. He's talking about how God turns his back on us and makes bad things happens to us. And I have this weird thing that I think is annoying. I think all Christians or people who are deeply into religion do this. Anything bad that happens, they say it's the devil. Not everything bad that you can say is the devil. The Lord allows bad things to happen to us sometimes. Understand that, hey, we're not as untouchable as we may think. He did that with a number of people. He did a number of people in the Bible. I'm not gonna go into that right now, but I just wanted to say that for the sake of this track. Further on down the tracks start to get more melodic. They start to get more West Coast inspired. They start to have a lot more jazz to them. This album, I don't know what to say about this album. Before going into this album, Good Kid, Mad City was my favorite Kendrick Lamar album. But after listening to this album more and more and more, this is maybe my 6th time re-listening this album from start to finish. From last week, not last week, but from like I think Tuesdays when I started to re-listen to this album, and I am greatly satisfied. Very good album. There is nothing really bad I can say about this album. Don't get me wrong, there are times in this album where the songs start to get a little bit long-winded, because a lot of the tracks on this thing are like 5 minutes. And if I remember correctly, the last track on this album is 12 minutes long. Just like Sing About Me, which is on Good Kid, Mad City, it's a very long track. It's 2 tracks in one, but both tracks are very long. Mortal Man is another track just like that, where the track is very long. And on a lot of the cuts and a lot of the instrumentals, they just get a little bit long-winded. Kendrick, I'm not saying Kendrick does not have the ability to support these long tracks. He does, but there's only so much you can do as a rapper with 5-6 minutes on a track. It is difficult, it's not easy. A lot of artists nowadays don't have the ability to hold the person's attention long enough, which is why we're seeing a lot of 3-minute tracks. We're seeing a lot of 2-minute tracks. But this is also something Kanye West supports, because back in the day, a long time ago, with some of the biggest tracks, but some of the biggest records back then, they were only 3 minutes long. They were not very long records, but they were able to transcend you in that couple of minutes. I'm not saying Kendrick does not have the ability on this album, but there are times where he seems to struggle to maintain and hold a heavy presence on his own track. There's not a lot of features on this album. There are a lot of background vocals, but in terms of features, there are not many. And that is why this album is this close to me this is this close to touching Good Kid, Mad City, but it's just not as good as Good Kid, Mad City. Main reason being is I feel like you need features as a rap artist. There are artists who are able to maintain this, but I feel like when you are having 4, 5, 6-minute tracks, 12-minute tracks, you need other artists to get your point across and keep the audience more engaged. And that's something that Good Kid, Mad City does better. This album, though, is still a solid 8.5. In mine, it's been an 5 out of 10. And coming from 6 to an 8 is a huge thing. I'm very hard on albums, on everybody's albums. But yeah, I give this album an 8.5. Good Kid, Mad City is still only 9.5 out of 10 I have for Kendrick currently. He doesn't have any other albums that have reached that pinnacle for me. I don't know how everybody else feels, but yeah, that's the end of this video. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, you disliked my opinion, hit the dislike button. It's okay, it does not hurt me. Most importantly, if you're new, hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell notification button. Anyway guys, gang.